Today on Upfront, the future of Foxconn in Wisconsin. The Taiwanese tech giant officially breaks ground on Thursday. Next, key questions for Foxconn executive Louis Wu. Who will work at the plant? What about criticism of the deal? And what if a Democratic governor tries to renegotiate the contract? Plus, Republican U.S. Senate candidate Kevin Nicholson. Is he leading in the race for the GOP nomination?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. We begin today with the Republican race for U.S. Senate and a new poll that suggests both candidates still have work to do if they want to defeat the Democratic incumbent. The Marquette University Law School poll released last week polled in the Republican primary between Delafield business consultant and Marine veteran Kevin Nicholson and State Senator and nurse Leah Vukmir. The poll shows Nicholson leading Vukmir 37% to 32%, but with 30% of GOP primary voters still undecided. The law school poll also shows both Republicans trailing Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin, Nicholson by 11 points and Vukmir by 9 points, with few undecided. We're talking about the state of the primary race and much more today with Republican U.S. Senate candidate Kevin Nicholson. It's good to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So last time Leah Vukmir was on this program, I asked her about the GOP party endorsement that she received at the state convention. And I asked her how it had affected the race. How has it affected the race from your standpoint?
Well, I mean, obviously, you just mentioned the poll. We're winning the primary. There's been, 9 surveys released in this primary. We've been winning in 8 of them, and we feel good about that. But our focus has always been on beating Tammy Baldwin. And what we said about the RPW convention, we said about all the caucuses and the Lincoln days, is that was an opportunity to talk to voters. So anywhere there's more than 2 voters together in this state, we're going to try and get there. We can't make all those meetings, but we're going to do our best. And the reality is that was a great chance to meet with a bunch of people that are involved in the political process, grassroots activists, and talk to them and bring them our message, and then on to the next day. And here we are, still winning the primary, with our focus remaining directly on Tammy Baldwin. You mentioned that poll. Here's what I'd be worried about if I were Tammy Baldwin. She has spent millions of dollars on TV to try and reintroduce herself to the people of Wisconsin, and still her favorability, unfavorability is upside down, and her message is not taking. Like, I'm not going to make this personal about Tammy Baldwin, but her vision for the future of this country doesn't fit this state. That's why we're going to beat her in November.
You have said throughout this campaign that it will take an outsider to win this race. But I want to ask you about that connotation of being an outsider. Is there such a thing as being too much of an outsider? People might look at the money that you're receiving. A lot of it is outside money, outside the state. They might look at groups supporting you, Club for Growth, outside the state. They might look at the people who gathered signatures for your candidacy. Most of those folks were from out of state. Can you be too much of an outsider?
Well, we have over 9,000 small donors in all 72 counties in our state, far more than our primary opponent, obviously, or you'd be hearing about it, trust me. We feel very good about the level of grassroots investment and just simply activity in our campaign, the people that are stepping up and supporting us. And by the way, you know who else is with us? The voters, as proven by the polling, again, leading in 8 of 9 surveys released on this. And it's always good in a campaign to have the voters with you, is the way that I look at it. So our focus is going to remain directly on beating Tammy Baldwin. Of course, we have great grassroots activism and a wonderful team, but the focus is bringing a message that says Congress is broken. The reason that Congress's favorability always sits in the single digits is because you have too many career politicians like Tammy Baldwin sitting there who never actually address problems, never actually deal with the issues that they're supposed to.
So let's talk about that, because this past week on Twitter, you criticized Senator Baldwin. You said she had done nothing to resolve the immigration issue. So I want to talk to you about what you would do, because this is an issue that is very likely to end up in the lap of the U.S. Senate after the midterm elections. So let's talk about what we're seeing along the border right now. What should happen to these 2,300 kids that are currently separated from their parents? What should happen?
Well, I came out right away, and you probably saw this. I said that Ted Cruz's proposed legislation was a good answer in that it doubled, I think, the amount of immigration judges available, so you could speed up trials and look at asylum requests and say within at least 14 days, is this a valid request for asylum or is it not? And if not, quickly return people to their home. And if so, then grant asylum and then move forward. So part of this is expediency moving. I do not believe that families should be separated during this time. Of course, the president has come out since then, and since I said this, and said, yes, he agrees that families should be kept together in detention. But ultimately, the goal is this, and this is where I come at Tammy Baldwin. Stop illegal immigration. Politicians like Tammy Baldwin have encouraged illegal immigration to every step of her political career to try and get people to put their kids in precarious situations so they can use them as political props, and that's unacceptable.
So how would you stop it? illegal immigration?
Look,
How
I
you
do
that?
believe that the president is right. Illegal immigration is a huge problem. Build a obstacle wall, fence, whatever you want to say, on the southern border.
And we pay for it.
Well, yeah, and I honestly, we're not going to go broke because of that wall. We're going to go broke because of our long-term obligations and our cost of health care. So that's a separate discussion that we can have. But it's not stopping illegal immigration that's going to cause the problem. To build the political will amongst the American people and the people of Wisconsin, and I know this because I talk to them about this all the time. They love immigrants. They hate illegal immigration. Those are two very different things. We have to stop illegal immigration in order to build the political will amongst the people of Wisconsin and the people of the United States to say, yes, let's now put forward a merit-based, sustainable, economically sustainable immigration plan that's good for both the American citizens that are here and new immigrants, that puts people on a legal footing as soon as they get here so they can't be taken advantage of by politicians like Tammy Baldwin, who proved on CNN she does not take this issue seriously. She has no real answers for these things, and she is the one helping to put people in this predicament.
What should happen to the DACA dreamers, these young folks who were brought here through no fault of their own by their parents? They've now grown up. America, for many of them, is the only country they've ever known. Should they have a path to citizenship? And
again, not to be a broken record, but I do think this is part of that solution. It's a two-part solution. One, stop illegal immigration and do so in a way that the American people believe is real and it's substantive, and a Democrat president is not going to simply reverse it on fiat. So make it real and stop illegal immigration. And yes, those that were brought here through no fault of their own illegally become part of that solution that I mentioned before, which is economically sustainable and based on the type of labor. A path to citizenship could be established after we have stopped illegal immigration for those that you call falling underneath the DACA legislation. Now we can look and address that and say, look, if we're going to have, call it X number of people that are allowed to come here under legal status and have the opportunity to become citizens, those that were categorized under DACA, which by the way was illegal on the part of President Obama, would then have the ability to apply under that chunk of numbers each year for however many years we do that. That's a reasonable answer.
Kevin Nicholson is one of the U.S. Senate candidates in the August 14th primaries. Good to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. And my interview with Kevin Nicholson will continue now on our website, where we're talking about North Korea and the tariffs affecting Wisconsin products. You'll find that on the Upfront section of WISN.com. The Democratic field in the race for governor has narrowed. Candidates Dana Wachs and Andy Gronik dropped out last week. Wachs endorsed State School Superintendent Tony Evers for governor, while Gronik endorsed former State Representative Kelda Roys. Our editorial partner, WisPolitics, keeps you up to date on all the developments on its election blog at WisPolitics.com. Foxconn officially breaks ground in Racine County later this week. Coming up, my interview with Foxconn executive Louis Wu. We'll talk about the politics surrounding the deal. Does more need to be done to sell the project to Wisconsin residents? That's next on Upfront.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.